The government to invite applications for a pilot scheme to convert commercial buildings and hotels into student hostels. The ICAC warns of corruption in the building management sector as all buildings launched renovation projects. And the Oklahoma City Thunder hold off the Indiana Pacers to win their first NBA title. Good evening. You're watching Cable News. I'm Evelyn Bai. The government has proposed a pilot scheme which allows commercial buildings and hotels which are facing a lower occupancy to be converted into student dormitories and hostels. The Development Bureau is looking to expand the definition of hotels to accommodate the switch and avoid delays which could be caused due to submission of revised plans for approval. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Speaking on a radio program, Permanent Secretary for Development Doris Ho stated that Grade B and Grade C office buildings have experienced vacancy rates exceeding 10% over the past year, making them potential candidates for such conversion. She added that the current supply of hotel rooms remains sufficient, and with changing travel trends where many mainland tourists are increasingly opting for one-day visits, converting some hotels into student housing would not undermine tourism. The government has not set a target on the number of student dormitories needed, but the offer to convert into hostels is open to all commercial buildings. Under the scheme, certain areas such as covered parking spaces and loading bays could be flexibly repurposed into dormitory facilities, such as study rooms, laundry, and gymnasium. The scheme will start accepting applications next month. Speaking on the same program, Charles Kwong, deputy president of the Hong Kong Metropolitan University, said the scheme would save time and administrative costs, as schools and colleges will not have to go through the approval process for trying to convert buildings into hostels. However, location and facilities remain key considerations, with proximity to campuses and local amenities being crucial, Kwong added. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Rising corruption in the building management sector has prompted Hong Kong's anti-graft watchdog to hold its first Building Management Summit. The Independent Commission Against Corruption is aiming to create a platform for sharing maintenance information as all buildings launch renovation projects. Jeremy Zhu tells us more.
樓宇維修始終係一個複雜嘅項目。
Addressing the event, ICAC Commissioner Danny Wu said building management cases make up a significant portion of recent corruption reports involving private organizations. With 7,700 buildings soon reaching the age of 30 years or older, the forum seeks to help residents tackle urgent maintenance needs. Wu stressed that renovation projects are complex, involving multiple stakeholders, large sums of money, and legal and technical expertise. He emphasized that solving these issues requires collaboration beyond any single government department, calling for professional support and proactive participation from flat owners. The event was attended by Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alice Mak, Police Commissioner Joe Chow, and representatives from owners' corporations, professional bodies, and district councils to exchange views on building management and maintenance. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Chief Executive John Lee has hailed the SAR's reduction in carbon emissions, which has outperformed developed nations, including the United States. Speaking at the sustainability event, Greenway 2025, which was hosted by the European Union Office to Hong Kong and Macau and the European Chamber of Commerce, Lee highlighted a 25% reduction in carbon emissions since its peak in 2014, with per capita emissions falling to 4.5 tons in 2023, just 60% of the EU's average and a quarter of the US figure. With this progress, Hong Kong is well positioned to reduce emissions by 50% within the next decade and achieve carbon neutrality before 2050, Lee stated. Concurrently, Hong Kong solidified its role as Asia's top green finance hub, arranging 45% of the region's green and sustainable bonds in 2024, its seventh consecutive year in leading the market, Li reviewed. Ride-hailing platforms in the city are optimistic that the government will not restrict the number of vehicles providing such services, as authorities work on finalizing a regulatory framework this year. Industry experts believe such a move could lead to a loss of income for the drivers, many of whom work on a part-time basis to supplement their earnings. Scholar Chen reports.
Ride-hailing platforms have been operational in Hong Kong for over a decade, but are unregulated as it is illegal for drivers of private vehicles to accept paid customers without a hire car permit. Uber, which is a big player in the ride-hailing market and has roughly 30,000 active drivers in the SAR, revealed that 60% of them worked for less than 20 hours last year.
任何嘅數量限制咧，都會影響到佢哋出行嘅體驗。
Nicole Lee, head of public policy and government affairs at Uber, reiterated the company's desire to coexist with the local taxi business, but stressed that the modes of operation are completely different. She noted that limiting the number of ride-hailing vehicles will lead to higher fares and longer wait times for customers. On the other hand, the taxi industry worries that legalization of ride-hailing platforms will cause turmoil in their trade. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan stressed that there is space for taxi operators and ride-hailing platforms to coexist as long as both provide good customer service and meets consumer demands. Scholar Chan, Cable News.
Iran's parliament has backed a move to close the Strait of Hormuz as a retaliation for U.S. strikes on the country's nuclear facilities. Located at the northern end of the Persian Gulf, the water body is a critical transit point for 20% of the global oil supply. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has called on China to prevent Iran from closing one of the world's most important shipping routes. Kun Ting-yang reports.
Amir Hatami, commander-in-chief of the Iranian army, said the United States will receive a firm response for attacking Iran's nuclear sites. The way Iran would respond is yet to be seen, but the approval of the country's parliament to close the Strait of Hormuz could have profound consequences for the oil industry and world economy. Oil prices have hit a 5-month high since the U.S. airstrikes. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has asked for China's help as Beijing is the biggest buyer of Iranian oil and has a close relationship with Tehran. In a statement, Foreign Ministry spokesman Guo Jiakun said, China calls on the international community to step up efforts to de-escalate conflicts and prevent regional turmoil, as the Persian Gulf and its adjacent waters are important international channels for cargo and energy trade. Beijing is willing to play a constructive role in restoring peace in the Middle East, Guo added. Meanwhile, the U.S. military is still assessing the impacts of its strikes on Iran's nuclear ambitions. President Donald Trump wrote on social media that the hits were hard and accurate. He said he supports a regime change to make Iran great again. Kun Ting-yang, Cable News.
At least 22 people were killed and 63 others were wounded after a suicide bombing in the Syrian capital Damascus. The blast at a Greek Orthodox church happened during a service yesterday evening. Kun Ting-yang has more details.
Eyewitnesses described scenes of chaos as the attackers stormed the church in the Douala neighborhood of the Syrian capital, firing indiscriminately before detonating an explosive vest. Approximately 350 worshippers were in the church when the explosion occurred. An anonymous source suggested that a second gunman may have been involved but did not trigger his device. The altar was shattered, pews laid scattered, and blood was spattered across the walls and on the floor. This was the first such attack on a Christian place of worship since a unified Islamic rebel force ousted the former president Bashar al-Assad's regime last year. Syria's interim government, led by President Ahmed al-Shara, condemned the bombing as a reprehensible crime and vowed to protect religious minorities. The Ministry of Interior affirmed that the security of places of worship is a red line. promising to protect religious freedom in Syria's social fabric. Al-Shara himself is the leader of Sunni Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a former affiliate of banned terror group Al-Qaeda in Syria. After Assad fled to Russia, Syria has been rocked by deadly sectarian violence in recent months. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
The annual meeting of global business leaders organized by the World Economic Forum begins in Tianjin tomorrow. Also known as the Summer Davos, the meeting of the New Champions 2025 will feature a theme of entrepreneurship in the new era. Jeremy Zhu reports.
This year's event at the Tianjin National Convention and Exhibition Center places special emphasis on sustainability. The venue is powered entirely by renewable energy and is expected to cut carbon emissions by around 600 tons. Over 1,800 participants from more than 90 countries, including business leaders, policymakers, and representatives from international organizations, will attend the event, making it one of the biggest editions of the forum in recent years. The packed agenda features nearly 200 sessions focusing on world economy, China outlook, investing in people and the planet, and new energy and materials.
This is a state-of-the-art venue. It's the first time we are here at the National Convention and Exhibition Center in Tianjin. This is now on a national level in terms of venue that also underlines the importance of the annual meeting of the New Champions in terms of importance for the region, but also as a global meeting. It's about innovation, it's about entrepreneurship, and those spaces, they really foster dialogue between innovators, between business, between public figures and representatives from governments.
The World Economic Forum is synonymous with the town of Davos in the Swiss Alps, where it conducts its annual meeting January. The June edition of the forum, which is annually held in China, is popularly known as Summer Davos. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up 158 points. Top ATIC stocks of the day. Checker Fund was up 18 cents. Xiaomi was up 80 cents. Potmart was up $4.60. SMIC was up $1.80. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar. Canadian dollar 5.69. Australian dollar 5.01. On to the weather now. Fine and very hot tomorrow with a maximum temperature of around 33 degrees. Expect similar conditions over the following couple of days. Showers and thunderstorms are likely in the latter part of the week. That's our news tonight. I'm Evelyn Bai. Thanks for watching and good night.